We've actually got some actual grown-up, well, I say grown-up, some proper actual video game-related talking points for this evening. We've each come up with something. I don't know how we've got 4 questions when there's 3 of us.
Bill did 2.
There we go, that'll explain it. But yes, we have 4 topics and or talking points. So if you are watching live, feel free to throw your opinions in the chat and we shall come to them after we've answered each question. So the first question, which is a big question, and it's a question that has been asked many, many times before. Are video games art?
Can I jump in here?
Well, that was kind of the whole plan, as we're the only ones here. So
no, I mean,
please do jump in.
To go first.
You can go first. Yeah, go for it. I haven't got a prepared answer for this. Are video games art? Yes or no? Or have you got a more complicated answer?
I mean, David Cage so desperately wants them to be art. But I think it depends. A lot of people would say, yeah, it is art because a lot of creativity is behind it. But then a lot of people would also say, no, it's not art because it's not highbrow enough. I personally think it is. It's a very creative medium. It's a very interactive form of art. But, I mean, the people who say it isn't art are the people that haven't really played video games after, like, I don't know, the Amstrad came out. So
they were still art then, if you think they're art.
Yeah. I think if the people who think they're art would agree. But then you get, like, the casuals and the older people who are like, no, they're not art. They're ruining society.
Just like they said that books would, just like they said
Exactly.
that TV and film would, and all of that.
Yeah.
It changes society for sure. So I would say, if you look at what the definition of art, and I don't have a dictionary to hand, but isn't it something along the lines of something that is created that provokes an emotional response? Isn't that what the definition of art is?
Something like
I
that,
didn't
yeah.
look it up, but now I feel like I'm compelled to.
So you came up with the question. Okay.
Definition of art.
Then I would say that games are art. Obviously,
The expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form, such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power.
So yes, then basically.
So yes.
But obviously, there is such a thing as good art and bad art, and there are certainly.
Is there? Surely it's subjective.
Well, of course, yes. There is subjectively
You just
good art.
fell
and bad
right
art.
into that one.
Oh, crikey! Damn it!
I've been arguing this point for many, many years, and I've had this conversation several times with all kinds of people throughout my life. And I do think video games are art because they're combined from several aspects. You know, the graphical side of it, the music side of it, all of that is art. So therefore, combining it together makes art. However, the biggest the biggest arguing point I've ever had in retention has been it can't be art because if you're not skilled enough to be actually see all the content, it blocks you out from being able to truly appreciate what is on display, whereas true art will never block you from seeing all of its content.
Well, clearly you have never been around
Okay.
artists then. Because you definitely get people who are like, I'm an artist, you just don't understand my work. So,
That's a quality little clip
doesn't
right
stand
there.
up at all.
If you can't get past the first level of what it is and it's stopping you from being able to progress through a level or a game, I do kind of understand that. Yeah, of course, you have got, I don't know what they call it, but when someone puts a blue square up and says that's art, there's a sort of genre of that, isn't it? Where I think if you don't truly appreciate it, so therefore you don't understand it, and that's why you don't think it's art. But if you get to a certain point where that's the artistic nature of it, and if you don't see it, then you can't appreciate the whole aspect of what it's trying to tell you, or the story, or the music, or whatever. If you don't get to that point, can it be art? Whereas most art aspects will let anybody in through the door because you've got eyes and you've got ears, and that's all you need.
Mm-hmm. Every single game will employ an artist. Therefore, an artist creates art.
Would
do
a
they
text
not?
adventure game employ an artist if it's just text? surely they'd employ a writer, which would still be art, but you can't say
Okay,
every
so
single game
text-based
would employ an
adventures.
artist.
Okay, games with graphics then. So they would employ artists, don't they? And you take, I don't know, random game off the top of my head, Demon Souls on PS5.
FIFA.
You've got or
It's
FIFA.
art.
People have to draw and create all of the imagery that you see, right down to whether it's blades of grass or people or sky or any creation. There is a work of art to a subjective degree of quality, of course. So I think it's silly to say that video games are not art. How can they not be art? Because they are creative works. Good or bad, they are creative works, therefore they are art, I would say.
I think
No
we might
arguments
all be
here.
in agreement for once.
I
Yeah,
think
no arguments here.
nobody in the chat has disagreed. There's actually been quite a bit.
Maybe this question is posed at the wrong audience.
I'm going to have to. I'm going
Don't
to have
worry,
to
there are
scroll
worse
back.
questions coming up.
If movies
Don't
are art and
worry.
music is art, then games are art. You can do a games design course at an art university.
But you can also do a creative writing course at a university that is very much more known for its science-based stuff.
If a banana duct taped to a canvas can be a viral gallery edition, then games are art. Okay?
I think we're all in agreement that games are art.
Everyone
here.
says art. If a tangle of junk can be art, then anything can be art, says AKA Cole. Drunken Tetris is art, says Kisra. Okay, that might be the one exception.
No, that was fine art.
That was not. It was not fine art. Hello, Icy. In the chat. Where's your glasses, John? I haven't got my glasses on today. Funnily enough, you can tell that because you're literally looking at me. Sometimes I wear contact lenses. When I'm tired, I wear glasses.
No one ever asks where my glasses are.
Yeah, Ash, where are your glasses?
Right here.
I mean, I've got mine with me if anyone would prefer that I wore my glasses, but then I'd be having my glasses over my contact lenses and that would just give me a headache. Where are your glasses, Bill?
I don't have glasses.
Do you? Oh.
Oh, you
No.
clearly don't
How
spend
does- how
long
does it
enough
feel to not be
watching
cool?
TV at night.
No, clearly not. I'm a bit surprised, really, the amount of video games and anime and movies I've watched over the years that I haven't, lost my sight completely.
When I went to get my eyes tested before I got these glasses, my optician made me do, you had to look at a dot and get the lines to line up with the dot. And I went, which dot? And he went, oh no, to my face. And I was like, oh no, what's going on? So yeah, that was fun.
I've just realised here on the stream, drinking my tea, there's a black dot on the bottom of my mug. And I've never seen that before. That was never made on the design. I don't know why they felt it was necessary to add a black dot to the bottom of the mug. Is there one in your one?
It's two squares. Is it like their logo?
Mine says that mine's dishwasher proof.
Or maybe it's the logo from the company that made them.
Yeah, they put their cheeky little logo on it.
Didn't pay for that.
Well, you need to know who made the mug.
Suppose so. Actually, I've got to order some more, actually, because we've only got 5 left. They've all gone. They've all been sold and or given away to our gold patrons. Next question, then. Next question. Bill has shades. Cool. Will esports ever overtake real sports in popularity? Ash shakes her head.
No, I don't think so.
Well, this was your question, Bill. So why have you asked this question? And in terms
Well,
of,
are
we talking about global popularity, or are we talking of people who go to physical events related to esports, or just in general? What angle?
Well, if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I would have gone, no way. But you look at some of the things now that's out there, and to be honest, I've never actually sat down and watched like a pay-per-view or one of the live events besides one of the big fighting ones of Evo. But they actually order out stadiums now, and they're packed to the rafters with supporters and things like that, and there's sponsorship deals and all of those things, and it's starting to get bigger than some of the smaller sports out there. Mm-hmm. And it could highly possibly be the case that in, 10, 20 years' time, we might be sitting down next to the boxing, next to the football, or whatever sport you do watch, and go, I'm going to check into see what happens with Overwatch 25 or whatever it's on at that point. I just think it's phenomenal to see how big it's grown in just such a short amount of time, and how these celebrities, I say celebrities, but maybe there's a better way, internet personalities, that's probably better, have come from it, and people are building careers. So, it might be completely possible. Maybe we're just waiting for the correct game.
See, I agree with AKA Cole. Partly that I don't think esports will ever overtake physical sports because people play them for the physical involvement. Plus, there's you're not going to ever be able to do so you go to high school and you have your high school rugby team, your high school football team. No, they're never going to do a high school Super Smash Bros. Team. That's just not going to happen.
Won't they?
No, I don't think it will. And I think the culture around physical sports and the culture around esports are very different. And I genuinely don't think the culture will get there anytime soon. And I just don't think that it will happen. There's still a massive stigma. It's not as big as it used to be, but there's still a massive stigma. How many people do you think, or do you see go, oh, he only plays games, he's not a real athlete, regardless of whether they are an athlete or not. So I don't think it will ever get that popular. Also, there's a skill level. It's easy to go and have a kickabout in the park with your mates. It's much harder to, set up so that everyone can play Tekken at a high level or whatever. Because everyone needs to have the disc, or you all need to cram around someone's house and all be available and stuff. So
Jumpers. Oh, hello.
New follower.
New follower. Thank you, Water Walker. 2005. Oh, and another one. Big Rig. 74035. Awesome. Hello, and welcome. How can
Were you going to jump in there, John, or
what's that? Sorry.
Were you going to jump in on that point, or?
I certainly was. I was just going to mention to Water Walker, who said in the chat, how can I join the Discord server? You can simply find us on Discord. Oh, look at that. Kisra's already done it in the chat. There you go. Link is in the chat. If that doesn't work, we'll post one that works later. So yeah, when it comes to esports, I think it depends whether you're. I think esports is obviously it's growing exponentially. I think it will take a generation before we get to the point where it's accepted in society on a similar level as real physical sports. But then the importance of it can't be understated. So I'm not going to pretend that I understand much about football because I don't. But every Premiership football team has an esports team. Every major things like basketball teams, American football teams, they all have an esports variant linked to their official team of all of these huge massive teams and all different sports franchises. So they know it. Yeah, they know it's growing. So you've kind of got two groups. You've got esports that emulate real world sports. For example, the official FIFA tournament or the official the official Madden esports tournament, all of those kind of things. But then you've got esports that are based solely on video games themselves, be that Overwatch, Call of Duty, League of Legends, all that kind of stuff. And if you think about it, how many big sports can you name? So if I was to say to you, how many big sports do they show on TV?
What do you class as a big sport?
Something that's on TV, something that would be on Sky Sports. So obviously you got what? Football,
American football, boxing, MMA, golf, F1 because that's a sport.
We'll come to that.
Apparently, cricket, rugby, tennis. Well, it's basically what would be at the Olympics.
Yeah. So in the Olympics, there's probably 50 events, something like that.
Yeah.
How many video games are there in the world? A lot more than 50.
How many of them can you play as esports?
Well, yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean is, yes, there will be massive games within esports, but people, as a species, we don't have enough time to watch all of them. Generally, you might loosely follow multiple different sports, but there'll always be a couple that you are into a lot more and understand a lot more than others. And it will be just the same thing with games. Like, you like League of Legends or you like fighting games. And so you follow those elements of esports, but you won't follow all different forms of esports because no one has the time and the brain capacity to do that. But as an example of something that where esports is growing to the point where more people play the virtual version than the real version would be any form of motorsport. Because obviously, if you want to be a race car driver, you have to be really good and you have to be really rich. But in esports, you can buy yourself a proper steering wheel setup that's like a proper professional style steering wheel setup that's got the same pedals as what you'd have in a real car. That's all the kind of stuff that they use. And you can compete in virtual races, and because the simulation for racing games is now so advanced, there is probably now more people competing in esports racing games than there are competing in real world motorsport.
But to do that as like a career, you still need to be really good and really rich.
You don't need to be really rich to start in the grand scheme of things.
I don't think you need to be really rich to start any sport. You just need to be talented.
I suppose that you've got to have the talent first, I guess, yes. I was simply just pointing out that when it comes to racing games, that's something where esports is very, very well advanced compared to its real life counterpart. As in, it's quite close to it. As in, for example, I always talk about Formula One a lot because I like it, but all of the Formula One drivers these days, they practice on simulators. And we're now at the point where the simulators are now advanced enough where that is basically what you now get on your PC with things like iRacing and stuff like that. It's not far off, what you would use in the real world in terms of training. And so you've got that kind of crossover between the real world and the simulated world when it comes to that.
It's kind of interesting that the two of you have gone down kind of the routes that I was going to go down about this.
Sorry, Bill, I forgot. You posed the question, and
no, it's fine. It's good.
Please make your points.
No, it's why I like these segments. It's interesting to see what you'd think about just by posing the question. But I was going back to what you were saying about talent and having talent to sort of get started in it. It might be harder to look at it right now and sort of say, is it going to be bigger than American football? Is it going to be bigger than football or boxing? But when you look at other sports, and I don't mean these to upset anybody.
That's right, Bill. You can upset anyone you like. I don't mind.
Well, yeah. Things like snooker or darts. Those kind of audiences and what watches them. Is it much different than the skill level to get into a video game, like a fighting game or a racing game or like League of Legends or something? Is the skill gap that different? And when you, like you said, with getting past a generation, at the moment, video games are still in its infancy, even after all this time. And when that generation has passed, is it too much of a big ask to say that the generation who will see more video games than, say, play things like snooker or darts or even bowling and stuff, will there be more people playing video games and watching video games? And is it going to be hard to see those kind of video games be a sport in the Olympics?
I'm not going to lie, I don't think video games will ever be a sport in the Olympics because the Olympics is so intrinsically linked with feats of physical strength. So while, esports players are athletes because they do have to train and keep themselves really healthy to do what they do, it's not exactly the same as tossing a discus down a field, is it? So
you say that's the most popular sports to Olympics are track and field, aren't they? But every year they put other sports where there's a lot of controversy behind them. I don't know. I know racing. There was when they put racing cars into the Olympics at one point, everyone went a bit crazy. And there's a lot of the ice events as well. What's the one with the broom where you kind of shuffle
Curling.
Yeah, curling. Those kind of things.
We're best in the world, aren't we? I think the British are some of the best in the world at curling. We won gold in the Winter Olympics for that, didn't we?
I think.
Tangent.
I think Vagarus makes a good point about how you can't patch or rebalance something like darts. Sure, you can change the rules, but you can't change one darts player's accuracy to balance him against, say, another darts player.
Mm-hmm.
So while you can say you have to stand this far away now instead of this far away, I just don't think it's going to happen. As much as people say video games are more mainstream now, widely considered, they're still kind of pretty niche, and there is a lot of stigma against them.
Yeah, agreed. But going on, who made that point? Sorry, Ash, didn't catch who you said. Vagrus. Just going on what you said about their Vagrus, it's like darts and snooker and bowling and all that over several years finally narrowed down the rules to a certain set before they got to that point where it's like that's the rules for those games. There had to be a point at some point where someone decided the distance away from the dartboard was this and that's set in stone. Who's to say that video games won't get to the point where they don't necessarily release a new game every year and do all that, where they get the game to a certain point, say that's it, this is the rules locked in, not balancing anything else. This is what we're going to go with.
Yeah, the problem is say you take something like, say, Street Fighter, something that's been running for a really long time that, you know, the majority of viewers would understand the rules of, you know, what a Street Fighter match is going to be like, best of 3, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But because of the way that the technology advances so often, you're never going to have a fixed rule set, because every 3 or 4 years you've got another version of the game where settings will be different and stuff like that.
Every 3 or 4 years. It's every 3 or 4 months that they do balancing patches.
Yeah,
I suppose, yeah, if you actually look into it in terms of balance patches and stuff like that for fighting games, then yes, I guess so. But yeah, you would need something to run for so long that it is so common and well known that enough people can watch it and understand what they're seeing without having to have it instructed to them beforehand.
That's the tough part, yeah.
AKA cool. Rubber banding in a darts tournament would be funny. That sounds quite dangerous.
It does a little bit.
Imagine rubber banding in F1. Well, actually, Kisra, that's exactly what they do in Formula 1, because they change the rules constantly in F1, sometimes between different races, just to try and make the cars closer together.
Yeah, but they don't balance Seb Vettel against Lewis Hamilton, do they?
Well, no. But they should. But they try to. They genuinely try to.
Is it just trying to make it like more of a competition, so he doesn't win by very far?
They do it every year. They change things that they see that one team does really well, and then they stop that team from doing that thing, or they allow everyone else to do it.
That must be a good point then, because like you were saying about advances in technology with video games as they go, advances in like the engine technology must also develop the same way. So surely they must balance the rules with advances in technology in the engines and...
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's...
It's never going to be as granular as, like, to use F1, because I know 2 F1 drivers. They're never going to say, like,
two more than me.
Okay, we're going to increase the torque on Seb Vettel's car so that it's more in line with the torque on Lewis Hamilton's, but for balance we'll increase Lewis Hamilton's drag. Do I sound smart now?
Basically, yes. Because what they would do is, if they were to find that one engine is more powerful than another make of engine, they would basically change the rules so that the better engine cannot run with any more power than the level of the engine that's a little bit slower, so that they therefore have the same speed engines. That's generally how they do it.
But that wouldn't be patched instantly, would it?
No, but that's a setting that they can change from race to race. So then they try and balance it for the next event. But it constantly evolves. But it's a little different because the whole aspect of the sport is to develop your technology as fast as possible. That's how you win. But overall, the grand premise of, you know, there's a race and whoever wins, that obviously that doesn't go away. But it's the details that change. Anyway, as much as I would love to talk about Formula 1, I think we should move to our next question. Unless you have one more point, Bill.
In closing, with regards to this point, I think the biggest issue is not whether video games can be like a bigger sport or not. I think it's, unlike the other things that we've mentioned, video games is a lot harder and not as entertaining to watch. And
you have
I don't
to understand
think people,
it a lot more, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think people have nailed exactly how to put video games on TV for other people's enjoyment. Until they get over that, I don't think they'll ever manage it.
They're just too complicated at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Moving on. And this question is from Ash. Would you like to read your question now, Ash?
So my question is gaming culture toxic?
Yes.
Can I ask a question about this question?
Yeah.
When you say gaming culture, do you mean as a whole or certain individual type genres?
I mean gaming culture as a whole.
As a whole.
Mm.
I would say no as a whole, but there are certainly certain aspects of it which are so toxic I don't want nothing to do with it. By which I mean the
fanboys.
Well, yeah, and the competitiveness of it. Like, I can't stand when... This is my biggest bugbear, and everybody who watches me on a Saturday night will know I've talked about this at length, so I'll try and be brief. I don't like it when someone wants to win so badly, they ruin everybody else's experience by basically saying, you're not good enough, go away until you're good enough, and then come and play with my level. I think video games started in the arcades, and people got good by sharing best practice and sharing techniques. And yes, there were people that hold their techniques to try and be the best, but it was all about going, how did you do that? One of my fondest memories is when I saw somebody do a fireball in Street Fighter and told me it's not random. And he showed me that you had to hold the control stick, do a quarter motion and press punch. And that just blew my mind. If those people are not about to sort of explain to people how to play the game to get people up to that level, then sorry, you're not a competitor, you're just a coward. And I think that your toxic nature to be that way to other people just proves that you're too scared that other people might get better than you because you don't have the natural born skills. I've gone on a bit of a rant there. I'm going to hold back and let you guys talk.
It's alright.
It's fine.
John?
I think, generally speaking, most people are nice, normal, decent people. And if you talk to a normal human outside of the internet, like how, well, I know it's ironic that we are literally talking via the internet right now, but as in us three, you know, there's no toxicity that I'm aware of, at least, between us three. We all love games and we all appreciate games, you know, as much as each other. We certainly have different interests and different tastes, but we don't think less of each other for liking different games or bad games, do we?
It was a bad game, John.
I'm not going to provide any examples right now, so that I can try and make my own example here. But the problem is that there's such a loud element from the very small amount of people who are, for some reason, hell-bent on, you know, stirring up a less than healthy competitive element between things that don't need to have competition, like which brand of console manufacturer do you like best, and because you, for whatever reason, like one, you have to suddenly detest the other, and that seems like a crazy rule. It's like, why can't you like them all? Certainly you might still feel that one is better, but it seems very easy for some people to be very negative about things when it might just be simply something that doesn't appeal to them. It might not be designed for them. And so that then extends to the people that play those games, and so the people that like certain games and the people that like other games, for some reason, end up at loggerheads because they have the inability to communicate on a, you know, civilized level, and it's because it's too easy to be loud on the internet for silly people.
So I think it's really interesting that you've come at it from two very different angles, Bill, with it being a competitive thing, and John with it being like different subsets of people being toxic towards one another. Because in my experience, I feel that the culture as a whole is very toxic because it's very discriminatory. And I hate to be the person that points this out. You are both, you know, white men, and I am not. And I have experienced toxicity in gaming, no matter what game I have been playing, no matter like what community I have been involved in. And this is coming from someone who is a part of what is perceived as like the most toxic fandom ever, because I am a K-pop fan, and K-pop fans get a really bad rap for being toxic. I don't know if you've heard, it's been in the news and stuff. But I have never personally experienced toxicity for my opinions on K-pop, but I constantly experience toxicity in the gaming culture for my opinions on games, for the games I play. It's not like a competitive thing, and I think a lot of it comes from the fact that obviously, like, I'm a girl, so yeah, I think we just have very different experiences.
Yeah, I think you will get that. Ashley, if you don't mind me asking, with certain aspects of what you said, I totally agree, because my wife has said similar things, being a gamer girl, lack of a better phrase, herself. But do you also think sometimes it's because of the immaturity of the people? They're younger and don't quite know how to sort of express that. I mean, how many times has people sort of said, "Oh, that game's rubbish," and then people take offence because they like that game, but instead of asking the right question of why do you think it's rubbish, which is the correct question, just to build an understanding, they immediately lose that. They get that immaturity level and they attack.
There's no patience, is there? There's no understanding.
I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily say it's immature, because, well, I mean, it is an immature way to act, but a lot of the time the toxicity comes from people my age or older. Like, there's no real excuse for it. You're not 10 years old on the playground crying because I don't like your favourite Pokemon, for example. Like, you're in your 20s, you should know that an opinion is just an opinion, bro. Chill. Yeah. So, yeah.
You'd be surprised how many people don't react like that, though. Like, the Game Awards or anything like that, you just see people react. Or when we watch the PlayStation 5 reveal, and certain people are like, "Oh, that looks like a kid's game," kind of reaction, when that actually might be the best game out there. And I do think there's an element of people who have played a lot of games, and the more games you play, I found the more games you play, the more open you are to different genres. Whereas if you play one type of genre and that's all you know, you immediately disregard everything else around you. And that's where I feel some of the toxicity comes from, is that people say, "Well, that's not a first-person shooter, so it must be rubbish as a kid's game." And I fail to see why people are not open to trying more things, because as far as genres go, video games is very rich. There's a lot of stuff you can do in video games.
But yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of good points being made in the chat that the internet provides like a level of anonymity for toxicity to, you know, flourish. So
yeah, grow like mold.
Yeah. John, any other thoughts?
Yeah, so as a perfect example, Hyconic in the chat says Last of Us 2, that game being called good is just wrong. That's not Hyconic, being nasty in any way. That's Hyconic having a joke. But you can quite understand how someone might read that comment and think, "Oh my god, he's attacking my personal beliefs and my personal preferences," and so it then would snowball into something, wouldn't it? Which literally out of nothing. Like, personally, Hyconic, I feel that The Last of Us 2 is a very well constructed game. It certainly has its own artistic concerns, particularly towards the end of the game. But overall, I think it's quite good.
But like Ash,
see how we can get on. See, it's really easy.
Yeah, well, like I said, the reason I asked that question when you first posed the original question is that there's another side to that Last of Us 2 conversation, isn't there? Where certain people went after the actors.
See, that's what I was about to bring up, is a lot of people said they didn't like Abby because her arms were too muscly.
It's ridiculous.
Like, chill, so...
And that's what I mean by the immaturity. I don't know the age of these people, and it's not an excuse. You should definitely not act that way. And it's, I mean, who do you think you are to sort of go after someone's private life like that? But anyway, it's that kind of nature. It's a very different kind of level where you, if you're just talking about what you like and dislike, that's one conversation. Individuals where they've taken their time to share their passion with somebody, only for someone to tear that down just because you want to look big, you know. And then you've got the other side where they take it so personally. It's like you didn't say this, John, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's almost like a religion has been insulted and someone's been attacked on that level. And it's like it's a video game, you know. It's supposed to be fun. Let's share it. Let's enjoy it.
I'm just going to answer one question from Vagarus, which is about criticism. So if someone is helping you, and even if it's critical, do you find it harmful, or does it depend on the type of criticism? I think it depends on the type, because if it's like, hey, you'd be better at this game if you try doing it this way, you know, this might help you, that's fine. But if it's someone going, you're wrong, you have to play the game this way because that's how I play it, that's very toxic.
Yeah, I agree.
For sure. Well, look at us doing actual, real-world, proper, grown-up discussions.
Things got real.
Good. Yeah.